Good evening, everyone. It is approximately 6:05 on February 14th, and I'd like to call the special town council meeting to order. If you could please take a moment of silence to acknowledge our military personnel, firefighters, police officers, and civil servants who have dedicated their lives protecting our safety and freedom. Thank you all. In accordance with Mass General Law, tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded, and I would ask if anyone in the audience is recording, if you could please identify yourself.
I see no one, Mike.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting is being held virtually through a Zoom webinar pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Our first order of business this evening is to discuss or have Mary present a letter that was presented to the town council. I believe you all have that document in your possession. The letter is explaining an offer of extension of employment. I can start briefly by, on Sunday morning, myself and Mary engaged in a phone conversation and started talking about many of the issues that the town is facing moving forward. Those issues include collective bargaining agreements, contract negotiations, pending litigation, etc. Bottom line, we were talking about what a workload it would be to somebody walking into this office and having that pile dropped on their desk. And I think Mary's passion for the town and all the work that she's done in a lot of these areas over the last 18 months would be a disservice to drop it and try to leave a lot of these issues unresolved. So Mary wrote the letter. We all have a copy of it. Now turn the floor over to Mary if you'd like to elaborate on the subject matters that I just briefed.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I won't repeat the content of the letter, but for the last two paragraphs, which I think are the motivation for me writing it. I did reach out to Mike on Sunday, as he articulated. Having watched the interviews and listened carefully to some of the responses, I reached out to him to make a couple of observations. This obviously is the town council's decision, not mine. But I feel that I have a fiduciary duty to act on the reactions and the observations that I observed as a result of watching those meetings. So as I say at the tail end of my letter, that I inferred from the comments of several of the council members that I heard at the end of the interviews, questions and hypothetical sort of rhetorical remarks and questions that were made, that there was some level of discomfort among the council as to whether or not the pool of candidates met the criteria articulated in the charter. So my sole purpose for reaching out to Mike and for authoring this letter at his request is to let the council know that if you decide, should you decide that you need more time to further vet applicants or to make further inquiry of the recruitment and how the process went, that I would be available. And that was my sole reason for authoring the letter. I have some reservations about, as Mike said, about leaving so many of these issues in the hands of people who've not done this work before. It concerns me greatly. And as your fiduciary for the town council and the citizens of East Long Meadow, I felt compelled to make my feelings known. Your choice, I'm ready to leave on February 25th. If you decide that you want to take advantage of that offer, I'm available to stay longer. Once again, I just want to make it clear that it's your decision, and you know that, it's not mine. One other update, I mentioned in this memo that the mediation for the police was soon to be had, and this afternoon I got a note that it'll be Monday, the 28th of February. So it'd be very difficult for anybody in town step into a mediation on the police union contract on February 28th. That's just a minor example of the level of complexity that exists here. And now I feel better because I've been very conflicted over the last month with some of the process here. I felt a little bit bewildered that no one reached out to me for any sort of input. Maybe that's my own pride, but I thought I could make some suggestions and offer some opinion based on my nearly 3 years here as to improve this process, but that didn't happen and it wasn't required. So I can live with that, but I didn't feel comfortable just going off into the sunset, so to speak, without making my feelings known to you. So that's the purpose of my communication. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. If you don't have any, that's all well and good too.
Well, thank you, Mary. So that we can formally enter a phase of discussion, I would like to make an motion to extend Town Manager Mary McNally's employment to coincide with the original term of her contract ending on June 30th, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, for discussion purposes, we do have a motion and a second either from Ralph or Marilyn, I saw. Does anyone have any questions to the content of the letter or Mary's objective? And I did see Connor's hand first.
Yeah, not so much questions, but I guess a few comments. First, Mary, thank you for your offer to continue to the end of your contract term, and I'm sure you would do great work till the end. But I am concerned that would throw our whole finalist process into the air, and I think we'd have to start all over again. I don't think that would be fair to the 3 finalists to make them wait another 5 or so months before we either make a permanent decision or to keep that person that we pick in limbo, that they wouldn't be starting for 5 or 6 more months. I don't think that's a great part of the process to continue on our path. I was ready to vote on Saturday, and I think that that's what this council should do. I also think that if some of these matters have been outstanding for well over a year, I don't know that they're all going to be resolved by the time June or July rolls around anyway. And I don't think it really inspires a lot of confidence in our next town manager pick if we don't even afford them the opportunity to tackle them with a fresh perspective. So those are my comments on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mike. First of all, thank you, Mary. I certainly appreciate this gesture and I support it. I'm supporting it because it doesn't matter how prepared an individual is when you're starting out in a new job. If there are these known entities already in place, and as important as they are, I just feel it's great that you're willing to do this. But there's a but with my response, and that is, I don't know what the 3 candidates have been told. I don't know what the plan is going forward. And I would like to at least place this on the table, that I would like to see the council move forward with an appointment subject to the end of Mary's service. So we haven't wasted, we acted in good faith on Saturday with our candidates, with our participation, with our subcommittee, and certainly with our consultant, John. And I just don't want to leave things dangling. So if we welcome Mary's input, and I hope we can do that, because I think all these issues that she mentioned in the letter and tonight are so important, that we also move forward and make an appointment, and then we know where we're going. Thank you.
Welcome. Kathy?
Again, thank you, Mary, for that kind offer. Excuse me. I would support that as well for all the reasons that have been enumerated. But I'm curious, Mike, if we could ask John Petron for an opinion, not on whether or not we accept Mary's offer, but what doing so and putting this situation into forbearance, for lack of a better word, and what that may, we can't, Marilyn's question first is, have the candidates, have they had any sense of this might happen? And secondly, I'd be interested in John's opinion, because this is what he does every day. Will there be an impact, to the best that you can look into the future?
Mr. President, you wish me to address that?
I do, John.
Thank you. So this happens on a very regular basis where transition occurs. As noted, I think the process has, gone in accordance to what was stated. As I said on Saturday, truly appreciated the work of the screening committee, the town manager screening committee, and, moving forward. The council, it's your decision to make. I'm not here to, I'm here to guide you in the process, not to guide you in your decision, as to what to make. We can certainly talk with, if you wish to appoint your next town manager this evening, it's always up to negotiation as to where the process begins. Typically there is, there's a transition period. You're going to make it up. If you make an appointment tonight, you then need to negotiate a contract. That in the contract can be negotiated based on certain criteria. And if the criteria is that the position becomes available, in 1 week, 1 month, or 2 months, or, down the road, that would be part of that, discussion. There's always outstanding items that need to occur. Candidates come in, you have a team within your organization, you have some great department heads. I was impressed, with the level of competence, within the departments of your organization. You got some fine people, and I appreciated working with them. So again, setting up your process, there's two discussions here. One is, do you have your next town manager, and to make that appointment? And the second is the process of a transition. So those are two separate discussions. I think the first discussion, potentially should be, are you ready to make an appointment? And then you can have the discussion as to the process of transition that can take place. That's just my thought.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
One moment, and I'll be right with you, Sid. I think it's only fair. This was going to be the second part of our meeting this evening. So I had numerous calls from residents and council members, as you know, because you were at the meeting on Saturday, in regards to the intent of Article 3, where that phraseology needs interpretation, and the interpretation is going to come from our town council, SEL. So I engaged in a conversation with Jesse this afternoon, and by the end of this week, hopefully, he will be able to give me a definition, his opinion on the content of Article 3, and strongly advise not to appoint anyone until we work through that process. What was going to dovetail while that was taking place is I would be calling Community Paradigm or its agent, signed by Community, John, and look for options. So this conversation really is part 2 of our agenda this evening, but all of you knowing that until we have legal clarification on the language with Article 3, that we won't be appointing anyone to the council this evening. And when I was hearing Marilyn speak, I believe you phrased by the time Mary leaves, you would want to have someone appointed. Well, to me and Jesse, that made 100% sense, especially if we're closing in on the last month or 3 weeks, because at that point, Mary will have everything obviously stabilized by staying, and that could dovetail with whoever we select to, if they were working somewhere else, to give a 2 or 3 week notice so that the transition would seem to be much more likely to be succeed by having a smooth transition. That being said, I'm able to answer any questions from anyone regarding that conversation with Jesse or the direction, but I'm going to default right now to the next hand I saw, and that was Sid.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the things, first of all, Mary, thank you for that gracious offer. One of the things I think right now, East Long Meadow is no longer a small town. We're a small city, and we do need stability and security as we move along. As Mary mentioned, and I think the other counselors mentioned, we've got a budget, we've got contract negotiations, we've got detailed things that are taking place that's going to affect the tax rate and our taxpayers that live here in East Long Meadow. So I would encourage Mary and encourage the council to accept Mary's offer. Now, another thing, I have a question for Mary. With this, would you serve as a transition for the new town manager? Would you be willing to do that? And I know you mentioned you were going to kind of ride off into the sunset. This would make the ride a little easier and a little slower, but would you be willing to do that, to work with the new town manager so that there are no surprises? I want to see the new town manager hit the street running without any obstacles so that they can put their stamp on the town of East Long Meadow as town manager.
Thanks for the question, Sid. I guess it sort of depends on when that appointment is made. I'm willing to stay till June 30th, but if a manager is appointed on July 1st, I don't want to stay for 6 months beyond that.
Okay,
So-
I agree. I agree with you on that, Mary. No, that's a great answer. My thought is we as the counselors should not wait on voting for a new town manager. It's going to take probably a month of negotiations and if someone from outside has to move in, it's not just going to happen overnight. My thought, Mary could go through the contract negotiations, then we could bring the new town manager in, hopefully appoint once we get Jesse's opinion. And after looking at the charter and talking to several charter people, I believe that the 3 candidates we have right now, one will be the town manager. So I think we've gone through the process once. We're not going to find any savior for East Long Meadow if we go back through it again. We've got 3 good candidates. We should move ahead. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Awesome. Ralph?
So Mike, I just wanted to jump in. As most people know, I was on the original elected charter commission and on the review. Whenever I'm looking over something, I always revert back to the charter. I start there. I start with the requirements and I go forwards. I think it's imperative that we receive a legal opinion on Article 3. The way I read it is different than the way other people read it. So I would, I'd like to see Jesse's opinion before we go forwards and take a vote. I would hate to see us get a legal opinion afterwards that states that no, the charter doesn't allow for this or that. And that's my thought. I think if we delay this until after a legal opinion, it shouldn't be a big issue. Thank you.
I did see Connor's hand up. I wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to speak before we move forward here. I don't see any other hands at this point. So Connor?
Thanks, Mike. I think it would be a good idea then to take Ralph's suggestion and not vote on either of these matters then until we get that legal opinion. Because depending on what it says and what that means for the resulting of our finalist process, the timeline through the end of the contract may or may not make sense. I think we can make that determination tonight.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, and I just want to be clear. Connor, are you suggesting we don't vote on extending Mary's contract as well?
Yeah, I suggest that we rescind that motion and wait until we get the legal opinion. Because until we know where we're going with the candidate selection, I don't think we can know whether we need to find interim time, whether it's through Mary or someone else.
Don,
I agree only to an extent with what Counselor O'Shea just said, except I think we really should avail ourselves to Mary's, and again, thank you, Mary's offer. I mean, her last day would have been February 25th, and we have ongoing negotiations with the police union, a mediation hearing on the 28th. And our next meeting may not be till sometime in March. So I think, for the best interest of the town and availing ourselves to this offer, I think we should vote on Mary's decision. I mean, what Mary said today.
thanks, Don.
Mr.
I would
President.
agree. That's what the motion on the floor is. The motion on the floor is to extend, I'll read it again, to extend town manager Mary Valley's employment to coincide with the original term of her contract ending June 30th, 2022. We have a motion, we have a second. If there's no further discussion, we will roll call vote. And I'm right at the top of the screen here. I'm a yes. Marilyn,
Yes.
Don,
Yes,
Ralph,
Yes,
Kathy,
Yes,
Connor,
No,
and Sid.
Yes,
Okay. The next order of business this evening was an update on the appointment for the permanent town manager. And I believe I stated 90% of what took place. I'm working under Jesse's guidance, and he's working on this. We'll have an answer when it's done. The answer will be formally in written content. And at the same time, I will be reaching out this week to John and be able to offer whatever options Community Paradigm might have to continue with this process. That's the update. That's the only other item on our agenda this evening. And I will follow up with our first question with Kathy.
thank you, Mike. I'm okay with all of that, especially waiting till Jesse can finalize and submit a written disposition. And I know you'll be following with John later in the week about options, but may we assume, John, that you will update our three finalists as to the goings on this evening so that they don't feel as though they're being, I don't want to pick an incorrect word here, but that we're treating them professionally. Let's go that way.
I will make contact with the three finalists, as I did at the end of the meeting on Saturday.
Thank you.
That topic was discovered. I did have a discuss with John today. We didn't want to leave anyone hanging, but right now he's doing all the communications with the candidates. And the only reason they haven't been reached out to at this point was we wanted to see what the pleasure of this council would be with the extension of Mary's contract. Marilyn, did you have a question?
I was just trying to get my head around the time frame. You're waiting for an opinion from Jesse. Once we have that opinion, do we have a special meeting? I really don't want to wait until the second week in March if we have the information next week.
Once I have the information, I'll have further guidance from Jesse. And again, I've had the opportunity to discuss options with John. All that will be shared with the council, and based on what the council wants, we'll have a meeting after that. But until I hear from Jesse and have something to formally report back, I wouldn't want to put a date on that until I'm comfortable with him being able to finish his due diligence. Sid?
What I'm asking, Mike, please, is that we expedite things as quickly as we can. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
I'm sure Jesse will not be dragging his feet.
Okay, good.
Connor?
Thanks, Mike. I was just going to echo what Marilyn said, that perhaps instead of waiting till March, we go back to having 2 meetings every month on those Tuesdays so that we can get this matter resolved more quickly.
Ball's in our
Yes.
legal department and no one will be dragging their feet on anything. Sid?
Yes, I agree with Connor and Marilyn. We need to expedite this as soon as possible in fairness to the 3 candidates also, and depending on what Jesse's ruling is also. And you mentioned options, Mike. When you talking to Paradigm about options, we're basically just waiting for Jesse's ruling, correct?
So we're waiting for Jesse's ruling, but we are engaged in a contract with Community, as you know. And I'm sure they've been in this situation before. And all I want to do is either bring John into a meeting after we have a chance to talk and make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward based on past experiences that this company might have experienced.
Okay, all right, terrific. Thank you.
Welcome. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Marilyn,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Don,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
and Sid.
Yes.
Enjoy your Valentine's Day. We're adjourned at 6:32. Thank you all for making the meeting.
I don't-
Thank
Thank you.
thank you,